We'll get started now, so if I could have everybody's attention please, and thank you all for coming tonight. On behalf of the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce and the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, I'd like to welcome you to this forum. We're very proud to host this evening tonight and have an opportunity for you to meet the candidates and to be able to ask them questions and have them be able to give you a talk about their parties and their personal platforms. We'd also like to congratulate and thank all of the candidates for putting their name forward and serving on the province in public office. My name is Bill Adams. I'm a director of the board on the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce. I'll be the moderator for tonight. The timekeepers tonight are our first Vice President, Bev Dornan, and Michelle Cummins, a member of the Real Estate Board. Also assisting us around the room are members of the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, Susan Brolin and Sally Chalice, and the Langley's Chamber's Executive Director, Lynn Whitehouse, and Lori Watts. And there are question pages that you've seen around. If you want to ask a written question, if you can fill it out, just hold it up, and one of the runners will come by and pick it up and bring it forward. So the format of the meeting tonight is the order of speaking has been drawn from a hat, and the candidates are seated in the order from left to right they'll be speaking tonight. The candidates are invited to come forward and to the podium for opening speeches, and they'll be given 5 minutes. We don't have the fancy yellow and red lights that you saw on TV last night, the leaders' debate, so we have Bev as our red and yellow light for tonight. So she's going to ding the bell once as a warning, and then multiple times, depending on how long people tend to talk on afterwards, I guess including me, so I'll keep moving here. Question period will immediately follow all of the opening speeches. So there's two ways, as I said, with the written questions that will be gathered up by the volunteers, and we already have quite a number of questions here now. As an alternative, you can line up at the podium over there, and we'll take questions from the floor.
I'm pleased to be here tonight. I will start by apologizing to the other 4 candidates at the table because they shook their hand and I've got some kind of a viral infection. And, I told Shane that I probably got it from Jenny the other night when I was on cable with her, because she was getting something at that time and told me she was coming down with something. So we're just sharing it around between parties now. We're quite comfortable with it. I'm pleased to be running for a 3rd time as here in LA. I ran in 1996 and 2001. I always said that when I ran that I would try and do the best job for my community and the best job for the province. I believe that over the past number of years that we have done the best we can with regards to trying to deal with people's issues on a local basis, and at the same time trying to learn the aspects of a change from opposition to government. For the past 4 years, I've been the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General for this province. Now that's an interesting role. It wasn't more than 6 to 8 weeks after I became the Minister responsible for public safety in the province of British Columbia that 9/11 hit in New York. And I got a page at 7 o'clock in the morning in Victoria. And I found out that day just how good the RCMP and emergency preparedness people were in the province of British Columbia. Because there were 6,000 people on airplanes in the air coming to Vancouver. They were going to be landing in the next few hours because they couldn't land in U.S. airspace. And we needed to find accommodation, meals, and places for all those folks to be able to be staged and taken care of as they hit our province. What it showed me was the remarkable skill of the people that work for government, the remarkable ability to muster volunteers and put a plan in place and do a remarkable job on behalf of all of us. I saw that in the fires of 2003 in the Okanagan and in the interior as well. I saw it when we were actually asked to bring in the provincial emergency preparedness aspect of the provincial public safety programs when they had the avian flu here in the Fraser Valley to depopulate basically an entire population of chickens. It is a challenge to watch and be part of government and see how you can turn a ship around or make changes over a short period of time. But I can tell you that in the aspect of public safety in this province, in the last 4 years, we've done more in policing and the structure of things we can do within law enforcement than was probably done in the previous 20. And that's not a quote from me, that's a quote basically from the Chief of Police of Victoria. We put police on real-time information management, we put integrated units together like integrated homicide, sex offender teams, cybercrime, going after child pornographers. And we've been putting all of those integrated teams together in the last few years. And they're starting to work and have tremendous results on behalf of all of us. The one thing I learned early in politics was it's not always what it seems to be, and the solutions aren't usually as simple as you think they are. And I can tell you, whether it be education, transportation, or healthcare, that these are issues that we as a society We'll need to have long-term plans and strategies for it. We're going to be successful into the 21st century. We cannot today say our healthcare system is perfect, nor can we absolutely forget the fact that the fastest growing age cohort in our society are people that are living past the age of 80. We have to recognize that we are going to need significant resources, planning, and structures in order to make this thing work. And we're going to need the cooperation of everybody to take care of our aging society, which everyone in this room pretty well is in that age group that will need those structures. The same thing holds for education, particularly advanced education and trades and skills and university education opportunities for our youth. And how we're going to manage a school system that's seeing a depopulation of dramatic numbers of students that are no longer coming into the system because we're not having as many children as we used to. I believe that takes good management. I believe it takes some tough decisions. It also takes people that are willing to sacrifice their family life and their personal life in order to make that happen. And the biggest sacrifice that takes place in public life isn't just persons in public office, but their family as well. And anybody that puts their name up, like the candidates here today, should be congratulated, because it's the process. It's what makes British Columbia great and our country great. The fact that we change governments with a ballot rather than a bullet. The fact that we're people that actually can disagree and move on and try and find solutions anyway. That's what this is about. That's why I do it. I do it because I actually do care about my community. And I hope for your support again on May 17th to be your MLA after this election. Thank you.
I'd like to turn it over now to Marc Emery from the BC Marijuana Party.
Thank you. My name is Marc Emery. I'm the leader of the BC Marijuana Party, and I'm running in Fort Langley Aldergrove. And Mr. Coleman struck on it in a moment when he said he had a virus he didn't want to share with everyone. And I'm not so much afraid of human viruses as I am with the disease that he's brought along with his position as Solicitor General, and that's the disease of prohibition. We have a criminal prohibition on marijuana, and it's largely Ottawa's fault, and our position is that we should have British Columbia tax, regulate, control the production and distribution of marijuana. Over the last 3 decades in British Columbia, hundreds of thousands of people have been criminalized in the last 30 years with a criminal record because they simply choose, and by the way, it's mostly young people that get stigmatized, mostly your children. People vulnerable between the ages of 17 and 30, I consider those young people. They get criminal records, and that's not the least of what they get. They can't go to the United States after a criminal record. They're often barred from higher education. They become excluded from the rest of society. That alone is enough to end prohibition, criminalizing hundreds of thousands of young people over a choice that is their choice for marijuana over, say, Merlot, beer, or a number of other legal substances. But prohibition causes much more social havoc than just unnecessary criminality. Prohibition is the main reason that marijuana is grown in suburban basements. We're all aware of these grow-ups that are springing up on every block throughout the province. And the reason for that is prohibition. If we would have these legalized, regulated, and taxed, we would be growing them out on our farms. We have huge acreages, we have greenhouses, we have farmers who are quite capable of raising marijuana in a completely legal, regulated, and organized way. Legal growers would not be stealing electricity, and sometimes unsafely, I would certainly say, and they would no longer need to avoid detection. Legal products don't fund organized crime, and they don't fund violent criminal organizations. There are no coffee turf wars, no beer turf wars, no other addictive substance out there like tobacco has criminal organizations monitoring and controlling its distribution. The most comprehensive study ever done on prohibition was done by our very sage and wise Senate in the year 2002, and they unanimously recommended that marijuana be legalized to take away all these problems of criminality, of prohibition, of corrupting our young people, these fabulous possible profits they feel they can make. You know, right now we have tens of thousands of teenagers dealing marijuana in British Columbia that regulating this product could put an end to overnight. Prohibition endangers them because it can put them in jail, it can put them in gangs, it can lure them away from normal jobs that pay $6 to $8 an hour, $10 an hour for young people, with these fabulous potential profits that they read about every day in the newspaper when they see police quoting that a certain grow room is worth so many tens of thousands of dollars. Who can resist such a thing when the alternative might be to work at McDonald's for $6 an hour? Our position is that we need to take this right out of the current disease of prohibition. And it's a disease that Mr. Coleman is very, very firm on advocating. We spend hundreds of millions of tax dollars on marijuana prohibition. We leave hundreds of millions of tax revenue uncollected because we refuse to see that this is a legitimate industry, that over 100,000 homes, buildings, businesses, greenhouses, farms are growing marijuana, employing 250,000 people in this province. It's staggering. Someone on your block is growing marijuana. It produces $7 billion of revenue for this province. Imagine if all the marijuana farms disappeared overnight. How would we replace that $7 billion in lost revenue, especially to the rural economies around outside the Lower Mainland? The Lower Mainland's prospering, the economy is good, but the rest of the province rarely sees anything like it. Most places like Terrace or Kitimat or Prince Rupert or Prince George, they're not seeing a boom, they're not seeing good times, they're not seeing anything. People there dislodged from the fishing, the mining, the lumber industry have been displaced, and they move into marijuana because it's something they can make good money for their home, for their family with, and require not much upgrading in skills, which are not really available to people who are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Most of the people who grow marijuana are not young people. Those are the sellers. Most people who grow marijuana in this province are between the age of 30 and 55. The market's underground. Young people find marijuana easier to obtain than cigarettes, easier than alcohol. Regulating this industry, controlling its production and its distribution through BC government-controlled outlets would solve so much of those problems. We'd end the problems with suburban basement grow-ups, which everybody here is concerned with, and the increasing presence of organized crime. And then there's the hypocrisy. We have a premier who himself is an admitted substance abuser, convicted substance abuser, and the Liberal government's put a football field-sized casino in every community in the Lower Mainland. We've increased vice at every level, but we're punishing the one homegrown industry that we could organize, regulate, tax, make profit, benefit our communities. My name is Marc Emery, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.